Hey everyone, it's Saturday, June 20th. I'm StratX, aka Jeremy Stratton. A whole maybe 10 or 11 of you might remember me from doing other stuff in the video game realm. This is the inaugural episode. I want to talk about E3, some of my highlights for E3. Some kind of secretive, I guess, It's like, woo, secretive stuff. And then, I want to go over, plans, sort of general ideas I have going on right now. And to just get started, this is kind of a Patreon, organized podcast, and I really don't know what I'm doing with this here. This is very much just sort of a personal thing. I want you guys to be able to hear me. I want to talk to you guys. First of all, thank you so much for the pledges, because that's really amazing. And I feel a little weird because this is kind of a new thing to me. It's like, wow, people are giving me money. It's like people are just handing me money. That's weird. It's like, I don't want to take their money. But it is a new day and age for a crowdfunding, and that it's really not weird. I'm just being weird. But so I have my Patreon, and I'm really trying to focus on it, but I've got so much stuff I'm trying to do because I'd really like to ramp this all up. I'd really like to be able to make more of a living on it. It's very much kind of like stuff I really have to work hard to just even squeeze it in as a side project here and there now. I mean, it's been hard just to try to get a single video out in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and let alone a really, one that's up to my standards. But let's just roll into the E3 thing. That came and went. I didn't see it all either. There's still some videos that I'm loading up on YouTube and just watching. A little bit more of the HoloLens conference from Microsoft. I wanted to look at more of that. I saw a little bit of it. I did watch the Sony press conference live. I was very interested in it. That's why I was around and it was on my mind. So I tuned in. I was really pleased to see, as for the first brand new game that I'm pleased to see is that Horizon New Dawns, or Horizon Zero Dawn. And, it looks really neat to me. I tell you what, sometimes it's just real little things to me that spark my interest sometimes. First of all, yes, it looks really awesome with the aesthetic. It has an awesome kind of post-apocalyptic. It's kind of like a little bit of Last of Us, a little bit of that television show, The 100. A little bit more sci-fi with the big lumbering robot creatures roaming around. But very cool. I love post-apocalyptic stories and a little bit of steampunk, and cause I love Mad Max. I mean, I'm a big Mad Max fan, and post-apocalyptic movies are right up my alley. And that kind of look and feel is awesome. But as far as gameplay, I really zeroed in on the whole bow hunting thing. That just immediately just sort of sparked, was like a spark in my head. Cause I saw the main character go down and kind of hide in the bushes. I'm like, oh, well, that's very similar. Like, that's kind of cool. That's very similar to, what I saw in Black Flag, in Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Okay, and maybe it's a little bit like Metal Gear, like past Metal Gear Solid or whatnot. And so, I mean, that did kind of interest me. So I'm like, okay, they mentioned stealth and whatnot. But really, even after all that, I was still bringing it all back in my head to the bow hunting thing. And I'm not quite sure why I kind of like that stuff. I don't really play hunting games, but the idea of being able to more organically, shoot a bow and arrow in a game, For instance, even the little bit you can do in 7 Days to Die, which is you make a bow, not the crossbow, let's just say a regular bow, and you just press the button for your character to pull the string back, and then you aim with the reticle, and that's it. You aim and you try to shoot. Even that little bit is kind of interesting, but that's very, it's much closer to, say, a regular first-person shooter where you just have a gun and you click the button once to pull the trigger, which is fine. It's just kind of neat because there's a focus on, it seems like there's a focus on balancing the power you're putting into a bow versus, aiming it. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but if you look at more hardcore, like bow hunting games, bows operate a little bit differently. They're not just like another gun where you're just pulling the trigger. And they're not always just a gun that you're essentially holding the trigger for longer as you build up power. Yeah, they can be in lots of games. But, in some, it's more tactile, I guess. Usually they kind of, in my opinion, they usually kind of relate that to maybe more like a sniper rifle. So if a person came to me and said, a bow is just a gun, right? Well, I'd say, yeah, but maybe it's more like a sniper rifle. Because now you have a sniper rifle, you're doing a little bit more. You're kind of aiming, and sometimes you get that zoom effect. And then suddenly shake and jitter might become an issue. Or the fact that you're zoomed in technically becomes an issue, right? Because it's like, I can't move like I used to. And just kind of anticipate, because what happens in a shooter is you learn to anticipate, and you learn movements. You learn the whole dance, is what I'm saying. You just learn the dance. And you might be doing a shooter, and you just sort of almost learn to be instinctive and know right around the area you need to quickly jerk that mouse to get it into the head position to get a headshot from someone. That stuff changes because maybe the movement changes, or just the fact that you're zoomed in, everything doesn't move in the same kind of real-time aspect. So after that long-winded tangent on what I like about bows in games, but back to Horizon Zero Dawn. If it's something like that, that would be really kind of fun for me, I think. And really, I guess in another way, it's not much more than saying, it's bow hunting, but instead of deer, it's giant mecha animals, which is still cool to me. I mean, ultimately we'll have to wait and see. But that was my big one. Of course, the Final Fantasy remake, right? The Final Fantasy remake was very cool. I'm gonna wait into another episode or an article or something to really go in depth about how I feel about the announcement of the remake on Final Fantasy VII, because they talk about, I presented the idea to a friend, and I wasn't trying to come off rough around the edges or anything, and I think I did, so I apologize for that, but it's this thing where I think people are running with the term HD, and I understand, I do. I mean, I feel like I fully understand it, but what I'm saying about it is that in this space of the Final Fantasy remake announcement, I think it's having that HD thing there is sort of this weird, slightly problematic thing. It's like, from company perspective, they want to have that HD tag, because and this also plays into the other reason, because I think for many years now, people have been wanting, or they've been wanting a Final Fantasy HD remake, right? Because some years ago, the idea was, new technology comes out, so games could be in high definition, and people are like, wow, wouldn't it be cool if Chrono Trigger was redone in high definition? And of course, being one of the biggest games ever, people for years have latched on and said, wouldn't it be awesome if they if they made a high definition version or remade Final Fantasy VII in high definition. But then on the other side of the fence, the technology has already been out for so long that how many people are shouting HD or tagging things with HD? Everything is HD, right? To an extent. I mean, really, it's like, especially if they're saying this is coming out on PS4 or we're remaking this for PS4, I think people would be like appalled. I mean, I think you'd have an outpouring of concern if if any game came out, and especially a new one, and it wasn't in high definition. So that's a little bit of my thought on the Final Fantasy VII remake. Like I said, I might talk about it again, or maybe even a couple more times, I don't know, in different forms. Because it's interesting for different reasons, for like naming, for like search engine optimization, advertising, campaigns, whatever. And it's just interesting. It's not like it's a big deal. I thought it had an interesting vibe about it. But lastly, I wanted to squeeze in here, to a podcast I hope is not too long. I wanted to talk about Zero Friction. I've been teasing it a little bit. I've even come out and told a couple people about it before. Zero Friction is a website I and two other writers are working on. I've written not prolifically, not even close to prolifically. I had a short stint at massively.com, but before that, I've blogged for many, many years. I blogged in Web 2.0 for years, and even before that, just random, more of like diary life stuff. And then I wrote on English and English for for non-English speakers. I did, so writing has always been a thing for me, or especially writing, but I've gotten into videos and that since my days at massively.com. And plus, I wrote a little bit at some other places like MMORPG.com and some now defunct places like GameBunny.com, and I think the MMO Gamer, which is I think totally rebranded itself. And these other two writers, Jessica Brown and Warren Bennett, they've also been around for years. They've written all kinds of stuff. They've written, Jessica, she still writes on her personal blog, and I think Warren also does too, although I think his personal blog is just that, more personal, not game specific at all. But he's written, there's a good chance you've come across an article by Warren and never ever known it, because he's written and had his articles on many, many sites. And same with Jessica. Jessica does a lot of awesome YouTube videos as well. She's very big into retro, and that's really 50% of what Zero Friction is. Zero Friction is a site about it. It's sort of a crossroads between indie and retro gaming, and we're all really excited about it. We really are hopeful and excited, and we're trying to be very realistic about it, but give it the attention and treatment it deserves to nurture it into something that could really, really grow and become so much bigger. And that's our hopes for it. Zero Friction about indie and retro gaming. Even well, of course, we have a Twitch channel now. We're going to have, we have Twitter, and it's almost ready to launch. Almost. And of course, I think that's a great position to be in. Indie is everywhere right now. Indie is big, and I don't see it going down anytime soon. Retro has these charming, ecstatic fans, both old and new. I've seen kids that were born way after the consoles had come, when old retro consoles had come out, yet they're just like a kid discovering Elvis or the Beatles or something and falling in love with that. And they're finding these old games and consoles, and now they're rabidly just gobbling them up, and they love playing them as much as older players love just still the games they grew up with. And I think there's a good overlap between retro and indie. I mean, indie also borrows a lot. I think they look to old retro, and indie has some popular retro aesthetics in some of their genres, like the pixely kind of a look to it. But there's also even newer games that I think will fit within the spectrum of indie and retro, like Pillars of Eternity, that was kickstarted by, I'm forgetting who was it, Obsidian? That's very much like an old school CRPG or computer RPG, like the days of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Temple of Elemental Evil, Icewind Dale, that kind of stuff. But that's a new game using new tech. But I think it fits, right? So it's okay to maybe have articles about that and include that in an indie and retro gaming website. We're always going to look at stuff on a case-by-case basis with when it comes to things we're not sure about. We can always discuss, and you viewers and audience readers can have their input as well. But look for that soon. It's a website that we're all working very hard on, and you can. I think I have a patron-only article on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/StratX, StratX, and where I talk about where the name Zero Friction came from, because there's actually there's actually a history behind that name, which totally makes sense if you read about it. So, but that's it for this podcast. I wanted you guys to hear a little bit of what I'm up to. I'll be making some separate blogs and podcasts as fast as I can here in the near future, to be more transparent with everyone about what I am doing and showing you what I'm doing. So I have a lot. I mean, a website with 2 other authors, and it's pretty ambitious. I think we have a good handle on it, but at the so I think we're handling it. It's nothing that's out of our control, right? Or it's not too big for it's not biting off more than we can chew kind of thing. But it is big, which requires that amount of attention and work, and so it is a lot of work right now. It's eating up a lot of my time doing that. But I'm also still trying to get out. I got these projects for videos. If you look at my YouTube channel, you can see the last few of my videos were a little bit more on indie games, which feeds into Zero Friction. But you can see I got a new intro, a new outro, real fancy. I love them. I thought that was really cool. And so I am getting some stuff out there, and any kind of interaction with you guys is awesome. So just let me know how you feel about anything in general, or if you have questions, or if you have ideas. But with that, this has already gone on too long. I think I'm up to almost 20 minutes here. So I'm going to go ahead and end this, and just look forward to a ton more stuff in the near future. Thanks for listening, and you can always find me on Twitter. I'm StratX on Twitter. I'm StratX on Patreon. So those two are probably the best two places to find me and to interact with me. All right, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you and see everybody. Well, I always say see you later, but I'll talk to everybody in the next podcast and video.